It's the Mac, it's the Mac, it's the Steve's dripping Mac, it's the Steve's dripping Mac, it's the Steve's dripping Mac. Banging on Project Paddle, the money stacker. Now my pocket's sitting fatter.
Bass beating down your block, boy. Bass beating down your block, boy. All I hang around is block boys. In my pocket, that's a knot, boy. Think you hot, but you not, boy. Bass beating down your block, boy. Bass beating down your block, boy. Bass beating down your block, stunting.
Honda with a hatchback, sport mode, one button. Good luck trying to catch that. She don't fall in love, but fell in love with the music. In the 10 speed, smacking curves down in Houston.
So I've seen the first episode of Secret Invasion. That episode was fire. I can't, and the way it ended, oh my god, the way it ended, bro. The way it ended, I am, bro. I can't wait for these other episodes for this show, because I could already tell they started off strong. I just want them to keep the same momentum, and I'm already. I have a good feeling that they are, because it's like, bro, you have Samuel L. Jackson in here, bro. You cannot mess this up. You cannot mess up Nick Fury or a Nick Fury story. Can't do it. I mean, you can, but it'd be very disappointing. So please don't. So, that being said, we're about to check out Eric Voss break out these first episode trailer first episode of Secret Invasion, and find out some information I didn't know, and see some stuff that I missed. So let's get it.
New Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Secret Invasion Episode 1. No one is safe, and in this world of lies and deceit and creepy girls with bouncy balls, survival depends on our ability to observe these things closely for subtle nuances, missable details, hidden agendas, and good old-fashioned Marvel Easter eggs. So let's dive back into the Scroll Search and break down this episode frame by frame for everything you might have missed. And quick announcement, New Rockstars is now 3 channels. This channel for the Easter egg breakdowns, like you're watching right now, and the Break Room, which is our new home of our Inside Marvel Secret Invasion after shows, and also the deep dive for the special film analyses from me. Subscribe to all 3 and support us with this scroll inspired shirt at nerdriot.shop. Okay, the opening Marvel Studios title card does not use the flashy swoop through the letters with the iconic MCU moments that we typically see. There's no time for that. This isn't about the Avengers and their boom booms. It's about the stark realities of living in a world where no hero can be trusted. Moscow, present day, the same title card location typeface as we saw in and Black Widow, stylistically and tonally title card location typeface as we saw in Captain America Civil War and in Black Widow. Stylistically and tonally, the producers of the series are going for spycraft and globe-trotting political drama. And by present day, Marvel Studios executive Jonathan Schwartz confirmed that the show takes place after She-Hulk, so in the MCU timeline, we're looking at like late 2025 or maybe early 2026, but Marvel has proven time and time again that they cannot agree on exact dates for these titles. Agent Everett Ross, or who we think is him, takes a call. After being introduced as a CIA agent in Captain America Civil War, he returned in Black Panther, and then again in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where we learned his ex-wife is CIA Director Val. He committed espionage for the Wakandans and got arrested, but Okoye broke him free. But since this is a Skrull imposter version of Ross...
Oh yeah, he's with Okoye. He left with Okoye, so I should have known. I should have known this is not Ross.
Presumably, the real Ross could be hiding in Wakanda, or Ross might have been taken, and he's in a Skrull fragging pod somewhere. I don't think the implication is that the whole character of Ross, every time we've seen him, has been a Skrull, but rather this imposter has filled in sometime recently while Ross has been MIA. This kind of brick tunnel is a classic spy setting, perhaps inspired by the 1949 Orson Welles film The Third Man. Series director Ali Salim confirmed to us in an interview that films like this were part of his inspiration.
Go back even further, like The Third Man, the classics, right?
Sure.
And because the show is, the Secret Invasion is about trust and suspicion and identity, I always go back to the Conversation, Coppola's Conversation. There is a sense that Nick Fury, which you'll see in later episodes, sort of evolves into a lone classic American Western gunslinger.
Yes.
Which is, again, a little different.
I like it.
Than we've ever seen him before. And so we started to look at classic American Westerns like The Searchers and even Unforgiven.
Ross tosses his phone, he doesn't want to be tracked, and he pulls a firearm from his ankle, the gun he'll use to plug poor Prescott. We hear Prescott's voice here.
Imagine a world where information can't be trusted. Not very hard, is it?
This is actor Richard Dormer, aka Beric Dondarrion, the Lightning Lord from Game of Thrones, which is really perfect for
Oh, that's who he is. The lightning.
this croaky
Okay.
true believer rant. This speech outlines the whole "Who do you trust" theme that ran throughout Brian Michael Bendis' 2009 Marvel crossover event that this series is based on, but specifically Prescott is talking to who he thinks is Ross, and how lately a guy like Ross cannot trust even someone like his ex-wife, Val, the CIA director. I think Prescott is hinting that Val could be a Skrull, without realizing that the guy he's talking to actually is. But while we're playing this game of Skrull Search, I think the CIA director, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, is a very good option of someone who could be a Skrull. Prescott references the hazy distinction between real news outlets and fringe conspiracy websites, something that we saw explored in Spider-Man No Way Home with J. Jonah Jameson's Daily Bugle outlet, which by the end of that film was live streaming in Times Square. As Ross walks up to the building, you can see the windows on the second floor are papered over with newspaper to hide from surveillance and to pin on one's favorite conspiracy collage. Prescott's computer inside shows UKN 24 News. I don't believe that's a real news service, but it might be something like the BBC or news from the Kremlin, since this is Russia, and Russia doesn't normally allow residents to access Western internet. So Prescott would need to have his own uplink if that's the case. There's a classic Pepe Sylvia research wall, and because this is what I do best, I'm going to break down everything on this.
Oh,
we see
shit.
news clippings about a Colombian ex-rebel politician surging with young voters. The headline
Young
above says that
voters.
he's a nationalist, and this is already telling us something's up. Because in Latin America and in most places in the world, young voters don't typically support far-right nationalists, but in Latin
Right.
America, left-wingers and socialists are typically more popular with the youngins. So this tells us that both sides of this political shift are really being orchestrated by Skrulls, and there's a lot more than a handful of Skrulls on Earth. Then a redacted document beneath showing that same bearded man who was just on the computer screen, and he can make out the word Treadstone, which is the name of a Black Ops project in the Bourne Identity films. Yellow
shit.
post-it notes reading Bogota Terror, connected to heist, who is a target, and beside
Connected
that
to
the
a
left,
heist. What heist?
Argentine group claims to be responsible. Prescott later explains that it was an Argentinian terrorist group who attacked Bogota, resulting in a political shift in that country, followed by an attack in the Philippines, and then a mass shooting in Munich, and we see on the board an explosion in London. So rather than independent groups, he says that they are all connected, one group of Skrulls seeking to destabilize the political regimes on Earth.
Chaos. And that's only the beginning.
In a word,
Chaos.
There's also a headline about an embassy attack and, quote, theft of confidential items. This, plus that heist mention, might mean the Skrulls are taking tissue and other materials in their plot to create Super Skrull warriors, which in the comics are Skrulls that can also mimic the powers
Right.
in addition to the appearance of the enhanced individuals that
right.
they morphed into. And in the trailer, we saw a container with Cull Obsidian on the label. This could have been one of those stolen items. Prescott also has a Russian translation book on the table
It was the hand, because the hand was left on Earth when it was cut off.
showing that he is
Has to be
following
the
this
end.
city by city and has to learn the new language everywhere he goes. And I think before he dies, this proves he's not a Skrull. If he took their minds and memories, he would know how to speak their languages already. Ross says,
The atmosphere has been tense.
yeah, because he's a Skrull and adapting to a new global atmosphere. We're on to you. Prescott says,
Started 30 years ago when the Skrulls found Earth.
Carol Danvers and Nick Fury promised to find them a new planet.
yeah, he's recapping the events of the 2019 Captain Marvel film, which ended with Carol Danvers leaving Earth with Skrull refugees in the year 1995. Since then, we know Fury has been working with Skrulls on Earth, with Talos and his wife Soren filling in for Fury and Maria Hill in Spider-Man Far From Home. Prescott asks,
Then where is Fury?
He's on Saber.
Saber is a space station that we see in the trailer for the Marvels, and
Right.
it might be the same space station that Fury was on with several Skrulls in the post-credit scene for Far From Home. Saber is based on the Peak. That's the space station
This
Fury
nigga-
was on with several
This nigga Fury wearing no shoes, bro.
Skrulls in the post-credit scene for Far From Home. Saber is based on the Peak. That's the space station of Sword in the comics. Sword in the MCU has been seen in WandaVision, and under the leadership of Tyler Hayward was focused more on terrestrial anomalies, but with Monica Rambeau involved now, it might have shifted back to his astronaut projects, which seems to be the case in the Marvels trailer. Prescott hands Ross a holodeck. Immediately, we see a Skrull face beam up, and notice that Martin Freeman looks outward over the display, since this Skrull already knows what he's about to see. Prescott sees through Ross's bullshit, and he tackles and chokes him, but Ross shoots him through the chest. And he calls Maria Hill for an extraction, and for Ross to show up in her car's computer display as the actual Agent Ross tells us that she either knew that he would be there, and the Skrulls had infiltrated this unit without her knowing, and that poor Maria Hill was doomed by the end of this episode, or just that Skrulls can bypass whatever voice ID and unique phone that Ross would have set up with Hill ahead of time. Ross flees his tail through
I
this
think it's the first option. I think she knew something was up.
blue-lit rave with the dancer
Just
suit.
knowing how Maria Hill is, especially she's like right hand to Nick Fury. I think she knew someone was up and was tracking them or something
Same
like that.
fist pump that, Zemo did when he became that meme in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then on the rooftop is some splashy purple lighting mixing with the green tones of the night sky to give off the green and purple color palette that we see in the main titles. Skrull skin is of course green, and their bruises and blood show up as the color purple. This in roster doesn't make the jump.
damn.
We learn that his pursuer was Talos in disguise. Ross dies a Skrull, bleeding out on the street just as Maria Hill's shadow nearly touches him, foreshadowing her own death this way at the end of the episode. Tommy actually asked the director if Ross was meant to be seen as a Skrull the entire time we've known him or not.
I think all will be revealed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All will be revealed is how my uncle signs off all of his emails, which
Oh,
is
really?
a little ominous.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what does this mean? What are you
Yeah.
going to reveal to us?
I might steal it.
So presumably the series will answer that question. I think if you pay to get Martin Freeman in your series, he doesn't just show up in one episode. Like Julie Louis-Dreyfus and Don Cheadle both showed up twice in 2 different episodes, each on Falcon and Winter Soldier. Vincent D'Onofrio originally shot scenes for 2 episodes in Hawkeye, though they cut the earlier one with young Echo in the Karate Dojo. So I will think we'll see some form of Everett Ross again. Now, it was confirmed that the opening titles were generated by AI, a company called Method Studios, according to the director. I would have preferred if a human artist or
Yeah, that was, I found strange. Like, people were trying to, like, a lot of people were up in war about it, and I saw some people kind of defending it, saying, like, it's kind of like the play on, like, AI taking over, just like how Skrulls are trying to take over, and I'm like, yeah, but they could have got somebody, an actual artist to do it instead of AI. So, like, you're basically you're basically like just shutting down the whole fucking, or sorry, not shutting down. You're basically proving the fucking writer strikes right about, like, yo, we don't want our shit replaced by AI or replaced by computer shit. So you went for the AI knowing there's a strike shit going on, and you could have gone to an actual artist to do it. Yeah, man.
Animator were paid to do this work, especially since Marvel held this all the way to June. You could say Marvel might have done this on purpose to start us off with false, non-human imagery. I don't know. I think they just wanted to save a buck. This show ain't about technology, it's about xenophobia. But hey, I'm just gonna point out a few of these details that they fed this AI script to synthesize and to welcome our new computer overlords. We see the destruction of the Skrull homeworld of Skrullos. A serene field explodes in volcanic eruption, followed by the doomed planet as spaceships depart on the right. This is what made the Skrull people so diasporatic. Then a single figure, maybe the first Skrull on Earth with the Skrull craft floating overhead, reminds us visually of Peter Quill when he got abducted by the Ravagers in 1988. The city of New York as Skrull ships float overhead out of sight with a green wave spreading through the buildings. Then Nick Fury, still wearing his eye patch here, standing inside of a Skrull ship, it looks like. Then people walking in front of the Kremlin.
Damn. They're really telling us in our face.
I think it does look like the architecture of Moscow's Red Square as their faces turn to Skrull green. Then members of law enforcement.
Now, I'm not gonna say the AI artwork didn't work. Like, it for sure worked for, with it for, like, intro for the show and all that. But I still say, they could have got actual artists to do it.
A fire raging through Moscow, foreshadowing the bomb at the end of this episode. Then the clock of Elizabeth Tower, aka Big Ben, glowing green as a hand spins rapidly. Then we get our first look at the Skrull Council, humans in positions of authority, as a Skrull in a suit shifts back into a human form. Presumably many world leaders are actually Skrulls. Then, interesting shot, we see the green cloud hovering over the White House, but unlike the other famous governmental landmarks, which become the color green, the White House remains white, still unaffected by the Skrull influence. I think President Ritson might be one world leader who is still, as of now, uncorrupted, but that also makes him more vulnerable in a way. And then a chessboard foretelling Nick and Maria's chess game later on this episode, and here a bishop shifts into a queen and then into a king. The idea being that faith leaders, queens and kings, all cannot be trusted right now.
Damn, bro. Damn, that shit was, I knew the intro was fucking, like, I knew it was deep, but, like, shit, man. I didn't realize they were really telling us in our face. I gotta pay attention. I really gotta pay attention.
Fury thinks he's playing Cold War era chess, but really he's playing chess where all of his opponent's pawns have somehow made it to the other side of the board and have now leveled up into pieces that can move however the hell they want. And we see how Gravik jumps the rank from a bishop, like a lieutenant, all the way to the top as a king. But don't forget, the queen, who we could see as Gaia, is technically the most powerful piece on a chessboard. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Movies World's therapist for you. Therapist who is your free encounters and the Rockstars for 10% off your first month of therapy. A beam of blinding light pierces a forest, and the silhouette of Nick Fury steps off the ship. The blinding light reminds us a lot of Steven Spielberg's lighting in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Fury immediately doubles over, wincing in pain from his knee. He's not as spry as he used to be, and adjusting to Earth's gravity as opposed to the space station isn't as easy on this old timer. Fury wears a knit cap and a coat, pretty much the same clothes that Skrull Ross did. I know it's just cold, but this show just doesn't really want us to trust anybody. Most importantly, Fury is not wearing his signature eye patch. In an
he
interview
burned
with
it.
Fair, Samuel L. Jackson said the patch is part of who strong Nick Fury was, but
yeah, he burned it. Yeah, at the end of I would say it's at the end of what's it called? But that don't make no sense though. Wait, hold on. I gotta do something real quick. Hold on, let's see. Let's see.
Let alone, to this extent.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. Just going back to this shit, I really want to. I might want to go back and rewatch the Avengers, or not even Avengers, the Marvel movies. I forgot how good it is. It's been a minute since I went back and actually watch all this shit. So he has his eye patch here, but let's see, it was oh, it wasn't this. Wait, let's do what movie was it, bro? There's a movie it was Captain America. He burned his eye patch. So wait. So did he just get a new one? Did he just get a new eye patch? He burned his eye patch. But in Avengers Endgame, in any of the movies after Captain America 2, he shows up and he has his eye patch. Okay. No. I was just trying to figure out where's his eye patch, but
now his new look is part of his vulnerability now. You can look at it and see he's not this perfectly indestructible person. And Maria Hill say,
oh, so is that why in the trailer we see him without the eye patch, like we see in the first episode, and then he shows up with the eye patch? So he's gonna go from what the guy, the director said about how he's gonna turn into this lone Western gunslinger. So he's gonna he's not strong Nick Fury, so he's gonna work himself back up to strong Nick Fury.
His vulnerability now. You can look at it and see he's not this perfectly indestructible person. In Maria Hill's safe house, there's a poster for island art at the Brixton Community Center. Brixton is a part of London, so this safe house might have been set up by Falsworth in the MI6. On the rooftop, Talos cultivates a Santo Milica, a Skrull sky plant, he says, planted by Soren, who carry these seeds around. Talos says that it's adapted to this planet, a metaphor for how the Skrulls have adapted to Earth and prefer it as their home, as opposed to some new homeworld that might not even be out there. Now, the word Santo is Spanish for saint or holy or sacred, and Milica is a Hindu name meaning desiring union or wishes unity. So together we get two cultures coming together to electric company together, sacred unity, which is what Talos and Soren wanted between humans and Skrulls. Fury and Talos press their heads together, a Skrull gesture of endearment that we saw Talos and Soren do in Captain Marvel, and Talos says,
"But after the blip, you were different."
We only briefly saw Fury post-blip at Tony Stark's funeral in Avengers Endgame, perhaps being so freaked out by Thanos' attack as turned Fury's attention to cosmic threats.
After the blip, you were different.
We only briefly saw Fury post-blip at Tony Stark's funeral in Avengers Endgame, perhaps being so freaked out by Thanos' attack has turned Fury's attention to cosmic threats, and that's why he's on Saber. We learned Talos was kicked off the Skrull Council, and Gravik now leads it, and he set up his base in one of Russia's abandoned nuclear plants, many of which are off the books. We learned that Skrulls can withstand radiation, probably because their shapeshifting occurs on a molecular level, as we learn in Captain Marvel, which would allow their cells to resist neutrons firing through them. We learned that Skrulls are using an American taken from an AAR group, Americans Against Russia, to detonate a bomb for materials taken from Kazakhstan to start a war between Russia and the United States, a plot that we saw in Tom Clancy's espionage thriller, The Sum of All Fears. James Rhodes returns, last seen in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now briefing US President Ritson, played by Dermot Mulroney, a perfect pick for a show about face blindness, considering the running bit of everyone confusing him with Dylan McDermott.
This is a picture of my face. Who am I, Dylan McDermott or Dermot Mulroney?
In Captain America Brave New World, Harrison Ford has been announced to play US President Thaddeus Ross, so something's gonna go down with President Ritson.
Something's gonna happen to him now.
On their West Wing style walk and talk, they pass portraits of US Presidents Harry Truman, Ulysses S. Grant, George Washington. I think that's Dwight Eisenhower by the flower.
I'm curious if Rhodey's still gonna be in a position like to talk to the president, like be in the president's ear and all that.
James Buchanan, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan. They aren't in any particular order, and we do skip Gerald Ford in the actual order of succession there. But the idea is, how far back would an alien infiltration have gone? How many of these guys were actually human? The Secret Invasion comics don't shy away from politics. Both Barack Obama and John McCain were depicted as Skrulls on TV screens. And it's interesting we don't see any presidents past Reagan, because as with the West Wing, the modern era of the MCU takes place in a separate historical timeline with different presidents. Like through 2016 in the MCU continuity, the president was Matthew Ellis, who was last seen in Iron Man 3. Fury's nighttime stroll takes him past a food truck with the Cyrillic letters for shawarma, fitting that this founder of the Avengers would grab a bite of their favorite food. Fury passes a kiss and couple, and the woman looks at him. This is one of the people that Gravik turns into later. So all these people who look at Fury on this walk, therefore, are Skrulls watching his every move. This idea of kissing to stay hidden in plain sight was actually a move by Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff in Winter Soldier.
Kiss me. What? Public displays of affection make people very uncomfortable.
Yes, they do.
Yet this Skrull doesn't care if Fury looks at her, because Gravik knows that his plot is too far along to stop. A ball bounces out in the street and a girl stares at Fury, the same girl and ball emulated by Gravik later. This raises some red flags, and it's the same rightful alien suspicion that Will Smith has in Men in Black.
May I ask why you felt little Tiffany?
Yeah, bro, when I saw that, I'm like, why is there a little girl playing with a ball outside? And the first thought that went in my head was Men in Black, like you said, like, nah, that's some weird shit. What type of little girl, who allows a little girl to play with their ball outside at night? And then all of a sudden the mom shows up to go, come on.
Deserve to die.
I'm thinking, 8-year-old white girl, middle of the ghetto, bunch of monsters, this time of night with quantum physics books. She about to start some shit, Zed. She's about 8 years old. Those books are way too advanced for her.
Olivia Colman plays Sonya Falsworth of the MI6. Her name Falsworth could make her related to James Montgomery Falsworth, the British member of the Howling Commandos in the first Captain America film. The MCU did something similar with Jim Morita's grandson being the principal in Spider-Man Homecoming. Falsworth jokes that Fury could have been the ghost of Paul Robeson, referring to the actor and singer best known for his rendition of Old Man River from Showboat. Robeson was politically active. He embraced socialism. He visited Moscow. So I don't think Falsworth is just talking about their blackness, but rather a black man in Moscow specifically. Falsworth's office is lined with clocks, all set to a different hour, but at the same minute, her way of knowing what time it is in each country. And Falsworth explains,
"It's an old English spy master that started the tradition. A clock goes up when your time in the circus is done."
Circus, huh? Well, John Lee Carey nicknamed the MI6 the Circus because the headquarters were located at Cambridge Circus. So essentially, nicknamed the
Call for the Dead, A Murder of Quality, Spy Who Came in from the Cold, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, The Honorable Schoolboy, Smiley's People, Perfect Spy, The Secret Pilgrim, The Night Manager, Tailor of Panama.
MI6, the circus, because the headquarters were located at Cambridge Circus. So essentially, the spy master would put a clock up whenever a spy retired or perhaps died or was killed in action. Falsworth says,
I still haven't forgiven you for destroying my very expensive flat.
You mean city?
Yes, they're referring to the events of Spider-Man Far From Home when Nick Fury was involved with Mysterio's use of Stark
That's
drones
what
that
she
did
meant.
quite a bit of damage to London. Falsworth says that Fury's not knowing about the Kazakhstan theft and letting her thugs take him are signs that he's just too old for this fight, when in reality, he went out for a walk knowing that he'd probably get taken, and probably so that he could bug Falsworth's room. He even tells her that he let them take him so that he could get to her. I think he's more up for this than she thinks. In fact, that limp he walks around with may be performative so that people will underestimate him. Outside the Skrull base, New Skrullos, a newcomer named Beto walks up and delivers a passphrase.
Home in my own skin.
It's not just home that they're looking for a home where they can walk around without having to be in disguise. I like how his sweatshirt looks like a chessboard, chess being a common motif in this episode. The guard booth sign says Zelezhnograd, which is a town in Russia with a developed nuclear industry, but it's not 312 kilometers south of Moscow. Gaia gives Beto a blue Skrull fruit, just another example of Skrull plant life growing successfully on Earth. They are gradually terraforming it. Gaia enters the room with the humans whose bodies they've taken so far. The second one she passes is that art dealer that we see later in the episode, Vasily Pobrishkin.
Oh,
and
shit.
already bringing up a question I had after watching this episode, why does Gaia need to pay the Skrull posing as that art dealer for the bomb materials? I'm thinking maybe the money helps him balance his books and pay the people he smuggled the bomb parts from. The Skrulls bring in the kidnapped AAR member saying take his face, and then they strap him in saying take his mind. These shells that they keep the humans in zap their temples to keep them dormant and to bring their memories to the forefront. Talos and the other Skrulls use similar memory technology on Carol Danvers.
Yo, holy, I forget about some of this stuff, bro. What the fuck? I forgot they did this shit to Carol, bro.
Beginning of Captain Marvel. But this idea of Skrulls assuming the humans' minds is a really interesting concept because it forces their Skrull identities to the back of their minds and forces them to carry two souls at any given time. This idea was explored in the FX series The Americans, where in later seasons, a Soviet spy played by Matthew Reeves began to sincerely adopt American culture and values, and that really just messed with his head. Fury tells Talos a bit later,
You know, I know a bunch of good-looking Skrulls. You ain't one of them.
Okay, all right, guys.
Yeah, I'm curious to learn what other relationships with Skrulls Fury might have.
I was
Did this guy
actually
hook up with some Skrulls? I mean, he got to know Talos and Soren and all their friends. Just saying. Back at New Skrullos, Gaia reads a book called Understand the Human Mind, a Skrull trying to use human psychology against us. This is why we should never publish books about psychology. I'm just kidding. Gravik loads cube after cube of sugar in his drink. A villain having a bit of a sweet tooth is a recurring trope. We saw this with Han Zalanda in Inglourious Bastards and Father Flynn in Doubt. We don't see Gravik sipping the tea. Maybe the guy's just wasting sugar because he hates processed human food. Gravik's second in command is a Skrull named Pagon, who from the comics was the Skrull that had impersonated Elektra and the lover to the Skrull queen, Varenki. He sends Gaia off with a driver named Xerxu, which is the name of a Skrull from 70s Marvel Premiere comics who briefly assumed the identity of Richard Nixon. So back to that portrait of Richard Nixon, it might have been a Skrull. Because no American in the modern age would willfully resign. Humans ain't that honorable, it turns out. Gaia sees an inflatable Russian nesting doll, another example of this idea of people having other identities inside their shell.
Damn,
Fury
the symbol,
reminds
bro,
Talos
the
that
symbolism
Talos
in
is
this movie is
136
crazy.
years old,
show.
and Talos says that equates to less than 40 in human years, meaning that Skrulls live somewhere around 280 Earth years. This poses a huge problem for Earth. If the Skrulls are populating the planet rapidly, living such long lifespans and consuming natural resources at roughly the rate as humans would consume them, but with lives over 4 times longer than humans live, Earth's ecosystem would collapse unless the Skrulls put in place population controls. Talos asks Fury what he got for his midlife crisis shopping spree.
Population.
What you get for yours? The Avengers.
Yeah, Fury considers the Avengers his impulse buy, responding to an existential panic that he was feeling. It's also interesting that he considers 2012 to be Fury's midlife. He's pretty old by the time of that movie. That was only 13 years ago, suggesting that he's got a lot more life he intends to live. Pavrishkin says that the chair Fury sits in belonged to Louis XV, who is the great-grandson of Louis XIV, the great French absolute monarch, and Louis XV was the grandfather to Louis XVI, who was executed during the French Revolution. But Fury later mixes it up and calls it the Louis XIV chair. Fury interestingly says that everyone gets one lie, but not two, making us wonder what Fury's one lie is, because otherwise, why would he tolerate a single lie from others? Does he have a family we haven't met yet? Does he like to fart on planes? Fury shoots the Skrull Paprishkin, waiting until that Skrull growls at Talos, "You betrayed your own people," because Fury knows that when someone says that, when someone feels that way,
nah,
there's
Talos
no
got his
coming back.
ass
This
beat,
Skrull
bro.
is motivated to
I ain't
kill.
gonna hold
Talos,
you.
though, feels horrible.
Talos got his ass beat, bro. He needs to take some fight lessons from some Shield agent, cause Nah, that nigga got whooped.
That he played a role in one of his own kind getting killed. Gaia kicks Hill's ass, and Talos has
Damn.
a chance to check in with his daughter. He reveals Soren's death to her.
How?
Why did you ask? The people that you work for.
Yes, Gravik was responsible in some way for Soren's death. Perhaps Soren was in human form during one of the terrorist attacks that we saw on the newspaper board. Maybe she was trying to protect the materials that were being stolen. Or maybe Soren was trying to get Gaia back, and Gravik killed her for getting too close. At this bar, Fury speaks some Russian with this guy at the bar.
Смотри, сколько хочешь. Все равно не будешь таким, как раньше.
Повторите, пожалуйста.
Who was this dude, bro?
Interesting that he can speak Russian. As a figure during the Cold War, Fury was stationed in a number of places where he'd have to use this language.
Belfast, Bucharest, Belgrade, Budapest. I like the B's. I can make them rhyme.
But this old man is another form Gravik takes at the
Nigga, did I even watch this show? I did. Like, how?
end of the episode. So this is really a direct message from Gravik to Fury to make him doubt himself. It's just really creepy to learn how close Gravik was to Fury throughout the episode, but never chooses to strike. It's in this moment where across the bar,
I have a question. If Gravik was following him this whole time, was he actually kissing him? Like now this brings up so many questions. Like, bro, I get, you would commit to the whole, the role and everything to keep her out on Nick Fury, but this was kind of crazy. Unless this is like a female scroll, then it's like, okay, but like, I don't know, even then it's like, that's still weird. I don't know.
Was to Fury throughout the episode, but never chooses to strike. It's in this moment where across the bar, Gravik is carefully watching Fury and Hill play chess, and that's probably when he decides to kill Hill and not Fury. Fury says this is how he kept the Cold War from going hot.
Spooks like me.
Can't say that. This was hilarious.
No, you
can't say that.
Yes, that word is considered both a derogatory term for black people and an archaic term for spy. Fury probably means both ways. A chessboard separates them, and Hill takes white. Of course she does. And she does a standard E4 opening. That's where white moves the king's pawn 2 squares up. It's the most popular chess opening as it immediately stakes the claim on the center and frees 2 pieces, the queen and the king's bishop, for action. What do we see in the opening of this episode? A bishop, a queen, and a king. Fury asks if Hill is covering her bases, which refers both to their conversation and her style of play. Fury remembers the moment from the blip from the post-credit scene of Avengers Infinity War, including his near F-bomb.
Well done.
The director, Ali Salim, expanded on this in his interview with us.
The blip was a very disorienting thing for him. So I think he really is on his back foot. But the whole show is about, can he regain it or not?
Which I really like. I really like that that idea. Because, like, we know Nick Fury through, I'll just say from the first of from Iron Man, the end of Iron Man 1, which we really get a full idea of Nick Fury from in Iron Man 2, to, I would say, up to anywhere before the blip happens for him. And it's really, I really think that's a cool concept to go down. And to like explore it, because like Nick Fury, we know Nick Fury more for being like 3-4 steps ahead and knows what's going on. And he's like, he basically has eyes everywhere and knows everything. But since Shield fell down and the whole blip happened, he, like, I could see why he would be disoriented and be like, yo, I don't know what to make of myself in this world right now. So I like the idea that he has to find himself again and find that old Nick Fury in a new way and see if he can get back to that or like I said, make a new version of that old and adapt.
After asking Pagon to delay the strike, we think Gaia is getting cold feet, but it's just to give us false hope ahead of her meeting with her father. She tips off Talos that there will be 3 couriers, and only now, upon looking back on it, do we realize they just came up with 3 empty shells of the shell game, 2 couriers, and Gaia herself, to occupy the exact number of people in the other's group, Fury, Hill, and Talos. All of this was a big setup. They lose these couriers in the Russian Unity Day celebration. We see some acrobats and some clowns, making this exactly the kind of circus that Fallsworth was referring to earlier. But Fury sees that girl with the same rainbow ball from his night walk the night before. He follows her as she shapeshifts into the old man at the bar that he bought a shot, and then into the woman from the kissing couple who stared at him, and then finally Gravik himself. And the fact that Gravik is shapeshifting in plain sight of everyone else in this Russian Unity Day hangout shows us how little he cares about being spotted as a Skrull, because he knows that bigger fireworks are gonna happen right in this second anyway. He detonates the bombs, and notice how Hill would have survived, but what was she doing? Helping someone get to their feet. That's what slowed her down, so that fake Fury could catch up to her.
This shit.
Hill's final words to Nick Fury are, while it wasn't Fury directly who pulled the trigger, blood remains on his hands, and it hurts him so much to think that in her dying moments, she thinks that she was betrayed. But also we could read this as Maria Hill warning her old mentor that there is a second Nick Fury in the field. He took his eye off the ball, and he refused to make a chess move.
Damn.
He allowed himself to fall 3 steps behind and get played. So, God, R.I.P. Maria Hill. Koby Smulders, you've been great to us these past 11 years.
This made me mad, bro. I was like, no, I like her playing Maria Hill. I like this
MCU.
role.
We'll really miss you. And I think part of the reason this episode established that Soren was dead was to remove any doubt. Hill's known Skrull impersonator is gone too, so there's really no chance that this isn't her here. If this series can kill off Maria Hill, someone who's been with us since 2012,
Nah,
it can
for
permanently change his
I feel like they might end up killing Talos. I don't know.
status of any MCU
It
figure.
could.
And little detail in this final shot of Maria Hill bleeding out. Beside her is a dropped Russian flag, colors white, blue, and red, just like the colors of Maria Hill. A white top, a blue coat and jeans, and red blood staining it all. What an episode! Please subscribe to the 3 channels of this network: New Rockstars, The Deep Dive, and The Break Room. Support us by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Yeah, WVid though. WVid, man. That shit was. Oh man, bro, Maria Hills, bro. That shit caught me off guard, bro. That shit actually made me mad. Oh man. Okay.